Mount Everest has called to adventurers for over a century. Many of those who reached for the summit failed, such as George Mallory and Andrew Irvin in 1924. Many have experienced success since that time, but only two men can claim the distinction of being the first to crest the highest peak in the world: Edmund Hillary of New Zealand and Tenzing Norgay of India. Climbing Everest has become more than an act by a select number of mountaineers. It has come to represent any attempt to achieve something that stretches human endurance that only a few dare and fewer still obtain. It is the call to a summit-top experience. On June 13, 2015, in his own way, Frank Garcia followed in the footsteps of Hillary and Norgay. His summit was to be the first to summit using a new category of Everesting. He planned to climb the height of Mount Everest on his bicycle without actually going anywhere. This is possible because Frank had access to Zwift's indoor cycling software. This allows a rider to combine a virtually created world for cyclists with real-world cycling components to give the user a near on-road experience. With this software and a bicycle connected to a smart trainer, Frank was ready to begin his adventure. So, after a fitful night of sleep, with anticipation keeping him awake, Frank mounted his saddle a little behind schedule. We probably all had that feeling when we get a late start to a race or charity ride. Sometimes the most nerve-wracking part is just getting on the bicycle. The fear that he would not be able to stay awake for the entire 20 to 23 hours he had allowed for the attempt weighed on his mind as he began those first turns of his pedals. Would he be able to continue that long? Or would some technical glitch or a saddle sore undermine him? But encouraged by his wife and children there with him, Frank set out for the summit. Little did he know the family he would find along the journey. He made the first climb up the 0.2-mile stretch of virtual asphalt. He would most likely ride over the "Shut Up Legs" chalk graffiti scrawled across the path over 300 times as he repeatedly climbed 94 feet each effort up the 7% grade. This was more than a physical exercise. It would be a test of his mental strength. I asked him if during the attempt he ever felt like giving up. He replied, "There wasn't a time I felt like giving up. There were many." That is when Frank began to find a family he never realized was there for him. He said, "It just didn't seem like an option to give up, as a team had formed and now it was about them too, and I didn't want to let them down. Hours 12 to 14 on the bike were the worst. I was going really slow, but the team pulled me through." Julian's Washington's words of encouragement were most helpful, and just the fact that she was there the whole time. However, it wasn't all about fighting through adversity. Through the pain and suffering of the mental and physical effort, Frank was buoyed by the magical thing happening around him. What could have been a lonely and draining effort became an experience of community and support. Frank explained, "It is hard to point out a moment that meant the most for me. Really, it was the whole ride because there were all these people there supporting me, people I didn't even know before. It was such an honor to be a focus of that support." Now, that isn't to say that it was easy for Frank, or that even having people attempting to offer support always had a positive consequence. As is often the case in these types of endeavors, good intentions can sometimes get in the way. Frank experienced this during some of the many times he attempted to make a U-turn to start another repeat of the climb. He tells the story. "I was getting frustrated with U-turns because you can't make them when someone is next to you. This usually happens with sticky artificial intelligence guys generated by the software that won't leave your side. Anyway, Jim Purtell was being a trooper and doing climbs with me after one of these frustrating periods. There were a ton of AI guys out during that attempt. And he was next to me and I got mad. He went and told his wife I was losing my mind, which about that time I was. Great thing was, next morning, you know who was out there helping me again? Jim Purtell. Other riders came to cheer him along the way. Some logged in and watched from the side of the road. Many used the messaging function within Zwift to send shouts Frank's way. For the man who was the focus of this support, he was quick to give these angels on wheels their due. He said, "These folks made all the difference in the world. It gave me something to focus on other than the pain. I kept telling myself, just follow those wheels, Frank, just follow those wheels." Ken Bidding did over 10,000 feet of climbing with me. And climb they did. According to Strava, Frank Garcia pedaled his bike 17 hours, 18 minutes, and 54 seconds. He covered 163.8 miles in distance and 29,697 feet in elevation. Consider he also descended that much, which, where would that take him? Well, anyway, he started June 13th, 2015 at 10:32 p.m. Watopia time. He stopped the clock on June 14th, 2015 at 10:29 p.m. Watopia time. That means he was reaching for the summit just shy of 24 hours. He explains, "Well, I can say there was elation when I finished, but really I wanted to puke," Frank told me after a good night's sleep. So that dampened my enthusiasm right then. I was happy I reached the summit for the impromptu team that formed, and I was happy over that. Today, the satisfaction is having done it is starting to sink in. Why? Well, part of it is simply the spirit of Mallory and Hillary. Being the first to ever vEverest on Watopia, or anywhere for that matter, was appealing. But it was also an opportunity to join the large support network of cyclists and runners who climb for Nepal during the month of June. Frank joined them in raising money for people affected by recent natural disasters in Nepal. The Zwift community has rallied around Frank in this endeavor as well. As of the time of this article being written, the total amount raised by Frank's efforts exceed $9,000, including a matching gift. There is no doubt he will accomplish his second summit by raising over $10,000 by the end of June. For Frank, he has no doubt about it. He says, "I see in the news all the time where people of different backgrounds might not be getting along. I wish there were more reports of this kind of stuff where people of all different backgrounds from all over come together to help each other out. I know that humans can be bad, but they can also be amazingly good. You can be a part of that goodness by supporting Frank's Climb for Nepal efforts at his morethansports.org fundraising page.